Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most talked about, yet, let's be honest, frequently misunderstood economic statistics out there: unemployment. Whether you're just skimming the morning news or you're deep into analyzing global markets, this single metric is absolutely crucial. It literally shapes government policies and impacts millions of lives. But how much do we really understand what it means? Well, get ready, because we're going to break down the complex economic stats behind unemployment and make the whole shebang crystal clear. Okay, let's kick things off with a quick Mythbuster question. Picture a retired superhero, right? They've hung up their cape, they're relaxing on a beach somewhere. Are they unemployed? Now, your first instinct might be to say, well, yeah, they don't have a job. But in the world of economics, the answer is a resounding no. There is no way they count, and this highlights a really massive misconception. Not everyone without a job is officially classified as unemployed. Let's find out exactly why. Here is our quest map for today. 1. Who is actually unemployed? 2. Doing the unemployment math. 3. How governments measure joblessness. 4. 3 types of unemployment. And 5. The real-world consequences. Let's jump right in. Section 1. Who is actually unemployed? We really need to lay down the absolute ground rules for how economists view the workforce. Right, so here is the golden rule. To be officially classified as unemployed, a person absolutely must check 3 specific boxes. They have to be willing and able to work, they cannot find a job, and, this is the kicker, they must be actively seeking employment. You can't just be sitting on the sidelines hoping a dream job falls right into your lap. If you aren't actively searching, the government stats just do not count you as unemployed. And that brings us to the labor force. Think of the labor force as our entire active player base in the economy. It's the combination of everyone who currently has a job plus everyone who is officially unemployed, which, remember, means they're actively trying to get a job. If you're participating in the job hunt or you're already working, you're in the club. You are in the labor force. Now, what about our retired superhero from earlier, or a full-time university student, or a stay-at-home parent? Economists actually call this group the economically inactive. Now, they are obviously vital to society, but because they aren't actively trying to enter the workforce, they're kind of like the NPCs of our economic game. They absolutely do not count towards the unemployment numbers. Section 2. Doing the unemployment math. Now that we know who the active players are, how do we actually keep score? So let's look at the actual formula. The unemployment rate is simply the number of unemployed people divided by the total labor force, and then you multiply by 100 to get a percentage. But notice what is absolutely missing from the bottom of that fraction: the total population. The rate is only a percentage of the active labor force. So to put that into perspective, if you have a labor force of 50 million and 4.3 million are unemployed, your rate is 8.6%. It's a very precise ratio of the active players, definitely not the whole country. Section 3. How governments measure joblessness. We've got the formula, but finding out exactly how many people are looking for work out there is incredibly tricky. When gathering this data, governments basically face a head-to-head battle between 2 main measurement tools. On one side, you have the claimant count measure. This just counts the people who officially register to claim unemployment benefits. It's incredibly quick and cheap because, well, the government already has the payout data. But it's heavily flawed. On the other side, we have the labor force survey. This uses internationally recognized standardized definitions from the International Labor Organization, or ILO. They actively survey households to see who is looking for work. Now, it's a much more accurate picture and internationally comparable, but it is super expensive, time-consuming, and subject to sampling errors. In fact, many countries, like China did back in 2018, have actively shifted toward these ILO survey measures just to get a truer picture of their economy. But honestly, neither system is completely perfect because, well, human behavior is complex. For example, the claimant count might completely miss people who are desperately looking for work but just aren't eligible for government benefits. Or it might accidentally count people claiming benefits illegally. And perhaps the most tragic flaw in tracking these stats is the discouraged worker. Imagine someone searches for a job for 2 years, loses all hope, and finally just stops looking. They drop out of the labor force entirely. And the crazy thing? The official unemployment rate might actually fall because they gave up. It makes the economy look like it's improving when it's actually suffering. Section 4. 3 types of unemployment. Time for the boss rush. Not all unemployment is caused by the same thing, so let's introduce the 3 main villains. Our first villain is frictional unemployment. And honestly, this is the least serious of the three. It's really just the natural, temporary downtime between quests. It happens when workers leave one job and spend time searching for another, or maybe when a new graduate is looking for their very first role. Some frictional unemployment is actually a really good sign. It means workers have the freedom to move around and find the best possible fit for their talents. Our second villain is structural unemployment, and this one hits much, much harder. This arises due to massive foundational changes in the structure of the economy itself. It creates a severe mismatch between the jobs available and the skills the workers actually have. Think of a gold mining town where the mines dry up, or a factory floor where human workers are literally replaced by automated robots. The workers still want to work, for sure, but their old skills have become totally obsolete in the modern landscape. They almost always need complete retraining or relocation just to survive. And then we have the final, most terrifying villain, cyclical or demand-deficient unemployment. This is essentially a total system failure, a server crash. It happens when there is a widespread lack of aggregate demand across the entire economy. A recession hits, consumers stop buying stuff, so companies stop making stuff, which means they completely stop hiring and start firing workers across multiple different industries all at once. It can affect millions and drag on for a really long time. Section 5. The real-world consequences. Unemployment isn't just a sterile stat on a government spreadsheet. The aftermath rips through a society on multiple levels. So on a macro level, an economy with high unemployment is basically wasting its stats. In economic terms, it means the country is producing well inside its production possibility curve. Because incredibly valuable human resources are just sitting idle, the potential goods, services, and innovations that could have been created are just gone. That output is lost forever, meaning the entire nation is permanently poorer than it could be. And the really harsh truth, the debuffs of unemployment are not shared equally. If you look at the demographic data, like we saw in the 2018 stats from Nigeria or the 2019 figures from South Africa, unemployment forms a massive U-shaped curve by age. Youth unemployment is often staggeringly high. In South Africa, more than half of those between 15 and 24 who wanted work were unemployed. Middle-aged adults usually have the lowest rates, and then it ticks back up slightly for older workers facing those structural changes we talked about. The youth bear a frighteningly disproportionate burden. Beyond those demographic curves, let's look at the compounding long-term penalties for the individual, because it's a snowball effect. It starts with the immediate loss of income and increased poverty, but then comes the severe mental strain and stress. Over time, your actual professional skills begin to decay. And, as we mentioned earlier, if this goes on for too long, a worker might become completely discouraged, give up on the labor force entirely, and lose all confidence in their abilities. It's a devastating cycle. Which leaves us with a pretty massive ultimate question. We know that some frictional unemployment will always exist as people change jobs, right? Meaning a literal 0% unemployment rate is basically impossible. Government policy aims to crush structural and cyclical unemployment as much as they possibly can. But if zero is impossible, how much joblessness is a society actually willing to accept? What is the ideal balance between having a flexible workforce and ensuring economic security for everyone? It's a profound question that economists and leaders battle with every single day. Keep that in mind the next time you see those monthly job reports flash across your screen. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.